Not every Rolex deserves your money. That is a sentence most watch channels will never say out loud, but it is the truth. The Rolex catalog is deep, the prices are serious, and if you walk into a conversation without a clear sense of what you are buying and why, you will either end up on the wrong waitlist or overpaying on the gray market for a watch that does not suit you. So today, we are going to fix that. These are the 5 Rolex watches actually worth buying in 2026, ranked. 5 watches that combine investment credentials, design longevity, and the kind of daily wearability that justifies what you are spending. Stick around to number 1. It is the most coveted Rolex in production right now, and understanding why it holds that position will change how you think about the entire brand. Number 5. Rolex Explorer 2. The Explorer 2 is the most underrated watch in the entire Rolex lineup, and that undervaluation will not last forever. While the Submariner and the GMT attract the headlines, the Explorer 2 quietly earns its place as one of the most purposeful, most legible, and most genuinely tool watch credible references Rolex produces. If you are the kind of person who actually wears your watches rather than rotating them behind glass, this is where the conversation starts. The 22657 Neo wears a 42mm oyster steel case, the same robust architecture that underpins every serious Rolex sports reference. The case is water-resistant to 100 meters, protected by a scratch-resistant sapphire crystal with Cyclops magnification over the date window, and fitted with the Oyster Lock bracelet featuring the EasyLink 5mm comfort extension. The design is direct and uncompromising. A fixed bezel engraved with 24-hour numerals, a bold, arrow-tipped 24-hour hand in a contrasting tone, a dial, available in white polar or black, that prioritizes legibility above every other consideration. Number 4. Rolex Datejust 41. Rolex purchases has to include the Datejust, because the Datejust is the watch that built the modern Rolex identity. First introduced in 1945 as the world's first self-winding wristwatch with a date display, the Datejust has been in continuous production for over 80 years. That is not inertia. That is a watch that has earned its longevity by remaining genuinely relevant across 8 decades of changing tastes, technologies, and collectors. The Datejust 41 in reference 26300 is the modern expression of that legacy at its most versatile. The 41mm oyster case sits in oyster steel, with the option to specify a fluted bezel in steel, yellow gold, white gold, or rollsore, the signature combination of steel and gold that Rolex has produced since the 1930s. The dial is where the Datejust becomes a genuinely personal watch. Rolex offers it in a range of colors, textures, and configurations. From the classic silver stick dial to slate, blue, black, champagne, and beyond. Roman numerals, batten markers, diamond indices. The matrix of options is deliberately wide because the Datejust is designed to be configured to a specific wearer's identity rather than a single universal aesthetic. Number 3. Rolex GMT-Master 2. Pepsi. The GMT-Master 2 Pepsi is one of the most iconic watch configurations ever produced by any manufacturer, anywhere. The blue and red ceramic bezel, bisected precisely at the 12 and 6 o'clock positions, has represented dual time zone functionality and jet-set credibility since Rolex first introduced the GMT-Master for Pan Am pilots in 1955. 7 decades later, the Pepsi colorway remains the reference against which every other travel watch is measured. That kind of staying power is earned, not manufactured. The 12-6-7-10 BLRO wears a 40mm oyster steel case, the same disciplined proportions that have defined the GMT-Master 2 for a generation. The bidirectional rotatable bezel is set with a Cerachrome ceramic insert in blue and red, a material so scratch-resistant and UV-stable that Rolex guarantees the color for the lifetime of the watch. The black dial with large luminescent chromolite hour markers ensures exceptional readability in any light condition, including the low-light environments that professional pilots and long-haul travelers regularly encounter. Number 2. Rolex Submariner. No date, the Submariner without a date window is the purest version of the watch that defined modern diving and, arguably, modern sports watch design entirely. When Rolex introduced the Submariner in 1953, it was a tool, a precision instrument engineered to survive underwater environments that destroyed every other wristwatch on the market. The reference 124060 is the direct descendant of that original brief, and it is the cleanest, most focused expression of what the Submariner was always meant to be. The absence of the date window, and the Cyclops lens above it, gives the no-date Submariner a symmetry that collectors have prized for decades. The dial is balanced. The space between the bezel and the chapter ring is even. Nothing interrupts the relationship between the hour markers and the central hands. It is a minimalist composition, and it is the reason the no-date variant commands a dedicated following that the date version, for all its commercial dominance, has never fully displaced. The 41mm oyster steel case arrived with the 20-in-20 redesign that brought the Submariner into its current generation. Rolex enlarged the case from 40mm to 41mm, updated the bezel architecture, redesigned the hands and indices for improved chromolite coverage, and introduced the caliber 3230 movement throughout. The changes were deliberate and disciplined, enough evolution to bring the watch into the current decade without disrupting the design language that made it legendary. Number 1. Rolex Cosmograph Daytona. The Rolex Cosmograph Daytona 11500 LN is the most coveted production watch in the world right now. That is not an opinion. It is the consistent verdict of every major auction house, every gray market platform, and every authorized dealer waitlist on the planet. Understanding why it holds that position, and why it has held it for years without losing ground, is the most useful thing this video can tell you about how Rolex watches actually work as objects of enduring value. The Daytona was introduced in 1963 as a purpose-built chronograph for professional racing drivers. Named after the Daytona International Speedway in Florida, it was designed around a specific performance requirement: the ability to measure elapsed time and calculate average speeds using the tachometric scale engraved on the bezel. Every element of the original design served that function. The 3 sub-dials at 3, 6, and 9 o'clock, the pushers flanking the crown, the engraved bezel graduated to 400 units. Function drove every decision. What Rolex could not have fully anticipated was what happened next. The Daytona became the most culturally significant watch of the 20th century when actor and racing driver Paul Newman was photographed wearing an exotic dial Daytona so consistently that a specific dial variant was named after him. In 2017, Newman's personal Daytona, reference 6239, sold at Phillips auction for $17.75 million, setting the world record for any wristwatch sold at auction. The Daytona's mythology was already substantial. That sale made it permanent.